He one-shotted all the surface mobs with the poison arrows he got from his second labor, and now he's literally invading the underworld alive! Finally, a final boss raid against the gatekeeper of hell! This is actually insane!
That's right. Before this ultimate demigod who shattered every rule on Earth, the only thing left is the line the living must never cross, the Underworld. But before we bust open the gates of hell, let's check out the storm-like sprint of how this great hero wrapped up his rampage on the surface. Everyone, focus up. There was nothing left on Earth that could block the path of Heracles, equipped with the invincible hide and poison arrows. For his seventh labor, the massive Cretan bull, driven mad by Poseidon's curse and laying waste to the island, was subdued by Heracles using only his bare-handed brute force to snap its horns. The eighth labor was even more horrific. It was to bring back the mares of Diomedes, trained to eat human flesh. To tame these cruel horses, Heracles threw the wicked king Diomedes, who had starved them, directly to the horses as feed. Calmly leading back the beasts that had become docile after devouring their master's flesh, the unstoppable sprint continued. For his ninth labor, he seized the golden girdle of the Amazon queen. Then, for his 10th labor, he instantly pierced and killed Geryon, a monster giant with 3 bodies living at the western edge of the world, with a Hydra's poison arrow, and hijacked his red cattle. And finally, the 11th labor. The hero ran to the end of the world, put to sleep Ladon, the immortal dragon with 100 heads, and even laid his hands on the golden apples of the Hesperides, the treasure of the gods. No mythological monster or physical impossibility on Earth could stop the hero's steps for even a single second now.
Wow! His aura is absolutely exploding right now! Other monsters can't even show their business cards anymore. From the 7th to the 11th labor, he just smashed through them all smoothly like clearing a highway!
That's what I'm saying! What's the point of having 100 dragon heads? Heracles just swoops by and steals the golden apples like picking fruits from a neighbor's yard. He's a literal cheat code.
Jokes aside, the rules of the surface end here. The final card thrown by Eurystheus and Hera, who were terrified watching him clear 11 labors, wasn't even from this world. It was the realm of Hades, a place that hates the warmth of the living and rules only the dead. The 12th labor was to drag the guardian of that very underworld, Cerberus, back to the surface. Heracles opened the gates of the underworld while alive and stood before King Hades. Hades set one condition: if you subdue Cerberus using nothing but your bare hands and the brute strength of your naked body, you may take him. A condition where neither the invincible hide nor the poison arrows could be used. A battle of raw, unfiltered aura had begun. Although it was a beast of the underworld feared even by gods, before Heracles, it was merely a wild animal. Even as the beast spewed fire and the snake on its tail ran wild, Heracles wrapped his 2 powerful arms around its 3 necks simultaneously and choked it. Ultimately, Cerberus suffocated under the hero's monstrous strength, whined in submission, and Heracles dragged him to the surface, perfectly concluding the grand journey of the 12 labors. Years later, his wife Deianira, fearing Heracles would give his heart to another woman, applied the blood of the centaur Nessus to a shirt, mistaking it for a love potion, and sent it to her husband. But that blood was contaminated by the poison of Hydra that Heracles himself had shot in the past. The boomerang of the tragedy he created had returned. The moment he put on the shirt, the hidden venom of the Hydra began to melt the hero's invincible body from the inside. He howled in pain and tried to rip the clothes off, but the poison had already penetrated to the bone, fusing the fabric and flesh as one. In the excruciating pain, where raw flesh and bones were exposed entirely every time the clothes were torn, the great hero ruthlessly collapsed by the poison of his own making. Unable to bear the hellfire-like agony of living any longer, Heracles climbed Mount Oeta himself, piled up a massive pyre, and ordered it to be set on fire. Within the blazing flames, the weak mortal shell that formed Heracles' body was entirely burned to ashes. However, the noble divine blood of Zeus flowing in his heart and his immortal aura refused death and awakened grandly within the fire. The soul of the hero, who had chewed up and swallowed all the curses of the earth, finally became an immortal god and ascended to Olympus. As the 12 harsh curses finally sublimated into an eternally shining crown of immortality, he rose to the ranks of the gods for eternity.
Wow! The ending goes beyond cool. It gives me goosebumps. Even though he suffered immensely because of the deadly poison, discarding his mortal shell in the flames and becoming a true god. This is the aura of a truly perfect hero.
That's what I'm saying! He eventually became a god and ascended to Olympus, so now nobody on Earth or in the Underworld can carelessly mess with him! I'm so glad it's a happy ending!
Setting fire to his own pyre to burn away the ugly flesh and leaving only a noble aura to become a god. As a hero's final epic, it possesses a perfect beauty that even I have to acknowledge slightly.
Exactly. Heracles didn't kneel before death. By burning away the limitations of his weak flesh within the flames himself, he finally completed his destiny and triumphed. The great epic of Heracles, the hero who shattered the rules of the earth and became an eternal star, ends here. But guys, the story of a hero who smashed everything with overwhelming brute force is now over. The next hero has no divine weapons, no invincible hide. Theseus, the great king of Athens. Next time, I'll tell you a story of survival inside the most vicious labyrinth ruled by darkness and fear. Brace yourselves. Good work today, everyone. Class dismissed for today.